psalmist crying, kingdom come. I see the horrifying things we've done. I want to go way down by the end of the road, all the way to kingdom come.
Shalom, my friends. We are beginning a very exciting and a very important study in the book of Thessalonians 1. That's 1 Thessalonians. And we're going to go right on through into Thessalonians 2, 2 Thessalonians. This is going to be a very exciting study. We're going to be looking at the Net Chatef, the harpazo, aka the rapture, the early stirrings of the tribulation period. And when we get into 2 Thessalonians, we're going to be seeing the lawless one, commonly referred to as the Antichrist. Not properly so, because Antichrist is any spirit at all that doesn't recognize Yahshua as the bane of Yahweh, the Son of Abba Father. But we're going to go through verse by verse, chapter by chapter, and here's our first installment, beginning with 1 Thessalonians. That's Thessalonians 1, chapter 1. Shaul, that's Paul. To most people, his true name is Shaul. Shaul and Sila and Timotheus, to the assembly of the Thessalonians in Yahweh the Father and the Adon, Yahshua HaMashiach. Favor to you. Every time we see or hear the word favor, in other English versions, you'll be seeing the word grace. Every time you see that word is chana. And it's saying, may Elohim pitch his tent with you, and may you pitch your tent with Elohim. In this case, he's specifically saying, may Yahweh pitch his tent with you, and may you pitch your tent with the Father. Chana to you, and Shalom from Yahweh our Father, and the Adon Yahshua HaMashiach. We give thanks to Elohim always for you all, making mention of you in our prayers, remembering without ceasing your work of the belief and the labor of love and the endurance of the expectation. We recently covered that word in my YouTube video. Just look back one or two. An important study there. The expectation in our Adon Yahshua HaMashiach, in the presence of our Elohim and Father, knowing, believers, beloved by Elohim, that you were chosen. The Father is choosing those who are to be a gift to his Son. Yeshua, before he left the earth, he says, if I don't leave, I can't send the Ruach HaKodesh, the Father's Spirit. He left, and the Ruach HaKodesh came to gather those that the Father is choosing as a gift for his Son. Verse 4 again, knowing, believers, beloved by Elohim, that you were chosen. Because our good news did not come to you in word only, but also in power, and in the Ruach HaKodesh, and in entire confirmation, as you know what kind of men we were among you for your sake. And you became imitators of us and of the Adon, Adon is the word for master. Having received the word, capital W, in much pressure with joy of the Ruach HaKodesh, so that you became an example to all who believe in Macedonia and Achaia. For from you the word of the Adon has sounded forth, not only in Macedonia and Achaia, but also in every place your belief toward Elohim has gone out, so that it is unnecessary for us to say whatever. Look at what is being said there. Verse 8 again. From you, the word of the Adon, Yahushua, has sounded forth. Have you shared the word with anyone in your life? Yeah. Not only, where you're living, but wherever you've been and wherever you've spoken his word. As he says, but also in every place where your belief toward Elohim has gone out, wherever anyone has witnessed your belief in Elohim. Verse 9, for they themselves report what kind of reception we had with you, and how you turned to Elohim from idols to serve the living and true Elohim, and to wait for his bane from the Shamayim, whom he raised from the dead, Yahushua, who is delivering us from the wrath to come. Let's back up again here. How you turned to Elohim from idols. If you take some time to consider your growth in the Word and the kind of idols that you used to worship, money, admiration of family or friends or certain people, trying to gain position in the world, whatever, anything that you at some time in your life held in higher regard than your action of pitching a tent with Elohim represents idols that you turned away from to serve the living and true Elohim. By the way, in 1 Thessalonians here, the end of every chapter mentions the coming of Mashiach, Messiah, Yahshua. In verse 4, where Shaul said, knowing, believers, beloved by Elohim, that you were chosen. He knew that they were chosen because of their response to the good news. And in the same way, you can know whether or not you or anyone else is chosen by your response to the Word, to these videos, to these messages. Now, in verse 10, he says to wait for his bane from the Shamayim. I mentioned a recent video where I covered the word expectation. We wait for the expectation of righteousness. And I pointed out, it doesn't just say that we're waiting for righteousness. And that meaning, righteousness is Yeshua. We're waiting for Yeshua to return. But the scripture that I point out in that video is saying that we're not just waiting for the righteousness to come. We're waiting for the expectation of righteousness. There is going to be a surge of expectation about him coming shortly before he comes. And we eagerly wait for that surging of expectation to grow in us. That's what I was speaking about in the other video. But here, verse 10, and to wait for his bane from the Shamayim. That's the same word. He's talking about us waiting for Yeshua to show up in the Shamayim. Now, he's not talking about the second coming here. As we go through these chapters, that becomes more and more apparent. He's talking about Yeshua coming in the Shamayim to receive those who the Father has chosen as a gift for his Son, to take them up to the Shamayim. And in fact, that point is made very clear right here at the end of verse 10. He says, and to wait for his bane, that's his Son, from the Shamayim, whom he, Yahweh, raised from the dead, Yeshua, who is delivering us from the wrath to come. The Greek word there for from is ek, E-K. And really in the English, I don't know why no one ever writes it this way, but it should not say from, it should say out of. Ek means out of. Now, by the way, just backing up for a moment, forgive me, in verse 10 it says to wait for his bane. That word there, wait, in the original language of Greek, is talking about sustained expectation. It's not just, waiting, but it's, again, talking about the expectation. We eagerly wait for the expectation of righteousness. Here it's talking about sustained expectation for Yahweh's bane to come from the Shamayim. It's a constantly sustained expectation. We're looking for him. And I can tell you, my friends, I am in the state of sustained expectation at this point in time. Getting back to where I was going, Yeshua, who is delivering us out of the wrath to come. That is ek. Take a quick peek at Revelation 10, and most English versions stay away from it there also. Revelation chapter 3, verse 10, where we read, because you have guarded my word of endurance, this is Yeshua speaking, I also shall guard you, ek, out of the hour of trial, which shall come upon the whole world to try those who dwell on the earth. He's talking about protecting us and taking us out of the hour of trial. Here in the end of verse 10, at the end of chapter 1, he's talking about Yeshua, who is delivering us out of the wrath to come. If anyone tells you that, from, some people will say, it means that he's going to protect us through the wrath. No, we are constantly told that we will not experience the Father's wrath. And here is one place where that is being said. Yeshua delivers us out of the wrath to come. Revelation 3:10, he takes us out of the hour of trial that's going to come upon everyone on earth to test those who dwell on the earth. And this is obviously talking about the net chatef, that is commonly called the rapture, and in the Greek the word is harpazo. And we know that because there is no wrath to come after the second coming. And here he's talking about us waiting for Yahweh's bane to come from the Shamayim, who is going to deliver us out of the wrath to come. He's not going to do that at the second coming. That is done at the coming that involves the net chatef, the rapture. Let's move on to chapter 2. For you yourselves know, believers, that our coming to you was not in vain. But having suffered before and having been mistreated at Philippos, as you know, we were bold in our Elohim to speak to you the good news of Elohim in much struggle. For the appeal we make does not come from delusion, nor from uncleanness, nor from deceit. But as we have been approved by Elohim to be entrusted with the good news, so we speak, not as pleasing men, but Elohim who proves our hearts. We're not interested in pleasing men in any way, shape, or form. We're interested in pleasing Elohim who proves our hearts. For we never came with a word of flattery, as you know, nor with a cloak for greed, Elohim is witness, nor were we looking for praise from men, not from you, nor from others, though we could have been a burden to you as emissaries of Mashiach. But we were gentle in your midst, like a nursing mother, warmly loving her own children. So, having a tender affection for you, we were well pleased to share with you not only the good news of Elohim, but also our own lives, because you have become beloved to us. For you remember, believers, our toil and hardship for laboring night and day in order not to burden any of you. We proclaimed to you the good news of Elohim. You are witnesses, Elohim also, how Kodesh and righteously and blamelessly we behaved ourselves among you who believe, even as you know how each one of you, as a father to his children, encouraging and comforting and bearing witness to you, that you would walk worthily of Elohim, who is calling you into his own reign and esteem, into his own malchut, into his own kingdom and esteem. And because of this, we thank Elohim without ceasing, that when you received the word of Yahweh, which you heard from us, you welcomed it not as the word of men, but as it is truly the word of Yahweh, which also works in you who believe. For you, believers, became imitators of the assemblies of Elohim, which are in Yahudah, in Mashiach, Yeshua, because you also suffered the same from your own countrymen, as they also from the Yahudim, who killed both the Adon Yeshua and their own Nevi'im, prophets, and have persecuted us, and who displease Elohim, and are hostile to all men, forbidding us to speak to the Gentiles, that they might be saved, so as to fill up their sins always. But the wrath has come upon them to the utmost. Now here, when he's talking about those who killed the Adon and their own Nevi'im, he's not talking about Jews in general. He's talking about the Pharisees, the Sadducees, those Jews who were puffed up with their own pride. We just did the study on pride this same day. He's talking about those who were full of their own flesh. Not, some people say, the Jews killed Yeshua. That's not true. You can't generalize like that. And Shaul, he's not generalizing. He's a Jew himself, and he's talking to Jews. He says them. He's talking about those bitter unbelievers, hateful people who did not want to recognize Yahweh's bane. Verse 17, but we, believers, having been taken away from you for a short while, in presence, not in heart, we're much more eagerly trying to see your face with much longing. We would therefore have come to you, I indeed, Shaul, more than once, but Satan hindered us. For what is our expectation, or joy, or crown of boasting? Is it not even you, before our Adon Yeshua HaMashiach at his coming? For you are our esteem and joy. You see, again, chapter 2 closes speaking about the coming of Mashiach. Every chapter ends with a mention of him coming. That's what's part of what's so exciting about 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. In verse 19, for what is our expectation or joy or crown? That crown there is a crown that is given to those who win souls. There are crowns mentioned throughout the Word. I've discovered 7 of them. There may be more. I have a video on it. I don't remember the title of it, but if you're on my YouTube channel, on the top, there is you'll see a little magnifying glass. You click on that, and a box will open up, and you can type in keywords and search for videos on my channel. If you have questions to ask me about certain things, use that search tool and see if I haven't already answered your question with a video. We're going to stop here, and we will pick up next week with chapter 3 in this most exciting study. I hope you're enjoying this with me, my friends. As always, I hope and I pray that this is a berekah to you and yours. Until next week, Shalom, my friends.
Let your kingdom come. Whoa. It's an ancient story that still gets told to those who hear and those who don't, by prophets and trees and things out of the blue. But once that cry has reached your ears, your heart gets filled by what you hear, and what you hear is just the sound